What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2024 schedule preview and projected record series. Indiana is up next. Before we get to 2024, let's look back at 2023. Here was Indiana's schedule from last season. Of course, they played Louisville in the non-conference, but then they had Indiana State and Akron, and it was just a grind in the Big Ten last season. You look at who they played out of the West. They played Illinois, and they played Purdue. Two games that you feel like maybe they would have had a chance in, but both on the road. That was kind of tough, and Wisconsin was the other team. And then, of course, the Big Ten East was really, really good, and they didn't beat Michigan State at home. That's one you look at as maybe being a win for them, but it was a disappointing season. Of course, new head coach and all that, and so I expect this to be a much different team. You look at the 2024 schedule, and first let's look at this non-conference. It's a very easy non-conference. They play FIU, Western Illinois, and Charlotte, all at home. I mean, it doesn't get much easier than that. I'm wondering, and I didn't look this up, but just seeing UCLA early in the schedule, maybe they were supposed to play UCLA in the non-conference. I really don't know, but I'm assuming they had someone scheduled because the Big Ten usually always has a Power 5 or Power 4 now opponent, or maybe it was another team. But anyways, FIU, Western Illinois, Charlotte, very easy non-conference. And then you look at the home schedule, and I mean, look at this. They've got 8 games at home. In the Big Ten, they've got Maryland, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan, and Purdue. Michigan will be tough, but you look at Maryland, Nebraska, even Washington and Purdue all at home. They're going to have a chance in those games. So I really think if it comes together with the new coaching staff and the new players on this Indiana team, I really think they could be a surprise team this year. Or at least turn things around from where they were last season. But this schedule really sets up well for them with 8 games at home. Then you look at the road schedule, and again, with this home schedule, you're going to say Indiana will at least have a chance in every game except maybe Michigan. So this is a very favorable home schedule. The road schedule is UCLA, Northwestern, Michigan State, and Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State's going to be really tough. UCLA's got a new coach. How good are they going to be? Northwestern, not going to be the most talented team in the Big Ten. I know they were very solid last year. Michigan State, new coach. So, this schedule sets up to where there are multiple ways that Indiana could turn things around and maybe at least get to a bowl game. We'll see. This is, again, the schedule. We'll go game by game. They open up with FIU on August 31st. They'll play Western Illinois on the 7th. 2 easy games to start off. Then they go on the road to play UCLA on the 14th. Back home for Charlotte on the 21st, and then another home game against Maryland. You look at that first month of the season, 4 home games, and again, winnable games on the schedule. UCLA going out west, that'll obviously be really tough. Maryland's probably going to be tough as well, but if they find a way to win one of those 2 games, this team could be 4-1 going into October, and that's not crazy to think that could happen. But you like them at least to be 3-2. So I think they get off to a good start. Then you get to October. They'll play Northwestern on the road on the 5th. Then they get a bye week after that. They'll play Nebraska at home on the 19th. Washington at home on the 26th. Then they'll go on the road to play Michigan State on November 2nd. And then Michigan at home on the 9th. Then they get their second bye week. So they get their second bye week between Michigan and Ohio State. Probably not the best spot because, let's just be honest here, Indiana's probably not going to win either one of those games. Probably not, especially not going to go on the road and beat Ohio State. So the bye week maybe doesn't help you out too much. But they get Purdue after that, of course, in the rivalry game to close things out, November 30th at home. And again, you look at a lot of home games on this schedule, and a schedule that I think sets up really, really well for Indiana to make a big turnaround in 2024. Here were some of the projections from last season for Indiana. Of course, 3-9 was their record. Our projection had them at 5-7. I actually picked them to go 4-8. Athlon had them at 4-8. The over/under was at 3.5. So they really were, a little bit under what you would expect, but they were expected to be, maybe 4-8. It's not like they were a big disappointment. Again, this is just not a team that was expected to do a whole lot and had a pretty tough schedule, which any team at the bottom of the Big Ten East is going to have a tough schedule, obviously, when you've got to go through Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, even Maryland. Maryland was pretty solid last year, so it was a tough schedule, obviously. And again, the schedule much more favorable this year. This is the scale that we use to get this projection. If it's under 20 or over 80, those are games we count as wins or losses. 20-29, 71-80 games where I think the spread's going to be 2 touchdowns, maybe a little more than that. 30-39, 61-70 games where I think the spread's going to be closer to around a touchdown, 6, 7, 8 points. And then the 50-50 games that could really go either way. And again, it's not about the spreads. It's just a formula that we use. We have a tier system, and we get these percentages from that. So I think easy win is Western Illinois. I think Indiana should absolutely take care of business in that one. They played, I believe, Indiana State and an FCS opponent last year, and they won easily. And I think this Indiana team is going to be better this year. So that's definitely in the green. I think FIU and Charlotte are debatable. Maybe they should be in the green. I'm going to put them in the blue, though, just because Indiana was, again, not very good last year. And these are at least FBS opponents. So we'll put those games in the blue. But I think Indiana's probably favored by at least a couple of touchdowns. And then on the flip side, I think they're going to be about a touchdown underdog against UCLA, Northwestern, and Washington. I'm not going to say they have no chance to win these games, but I think they will clearly be the underdog. Again, UCLA, Northwestern, both on the road. Washington's interesting because of all their roster turnover. I think they could potentially drop way off, and so maybe that's a game that Indiana could win. But I do think they will be underdogs in that one. And then a little bit of a bigger underdog against Michigan. We're talking at least a couple touchdowns in that game, but it is at home. Michigan's not going to be as good as they were last season, so it's not going to be impossible for Indiana to win that game, but very, very unlikely. And again, that one winds up in the orange, and then one in the red is Ohio State. And I don't see any chance of Indiana winning this game, especially on the road against I think one of the top two, definitely top four teams in the country. I just don't see Indiana having any chance in that game. So that means you've got Maryland, Nebraska, Michigan State, and Purdue. These are the games that can go either way. These are the games that you've got to win. And to get to a bowl game, assuming they beat FIU, Western Illinois, and Charlotte, to get to a bowl game, they would have to go 3-1 in these games. Good news is 3 of them are at home. But again, it's going to be tough. Maryland and Nebraska are going to be tough. I think those are teams that are probably going to be better than Indiana. Michigan State, maybe Indiana is pretty even with them, but they play them on the road. And then I think Indiana and Purdue are both going to be improved this year. I don't know if you'll see that in their records, but just the performances on the field, I think you're going to see better play from both Indiana and Purdue. So that could be a big game at the end of the season. Perhaps a game where the winner could get to a bowl game. We'll see, but they get it at home, so I think that helps. But projection-wise, again, the odds are going to say that they're going to win these games in the blue and the green. And they split the 50-50 games, and then with 3 games in the yellow, if you have 3 of those, the odds are that you're going to win one of those 3 games. So if they're able to do that, that gets them to a bowl game, and that's actually the projection. I'm not predicting that they're going to get to a bowl game. Maybe I will. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but again, our predictions will come a little bit later. But projection-wise, this team is projected to go 6-6. So anything over that is a great season. Anything under that is a disappointing season. And I really feel like with this schedule, Indiana, their goal has to be, and it's a realistic goal, I think their goal should be to get to a bowl game and get to 6-6 this season. What are your thoughts on Indiana? Give me your projections down in the comments below.